Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 173A.
I'm Kim, and this is Julie. This week's Torah portion, we are moving on, and we are about to dip into the plagues.
Oh, we're there already.
Yes, it's so fast.
I should know that because, we just left Egypt. Or, no, we didn't leave Egypt yet. We
got
just started
told, yeah,
Exodus.
leave.
That's what
That's
I
right.
meant.
That's right. All right.
And if you would like to check out some of our past episodes, you can check them out. 27 A and B, 80 A and B, 128 A only, and this year's 173.
Which obviously you're checking us out now.
Right.
All right, so we are going from Exodus 6:2 to Exodus 9:35. We're going to just touch on a few things. I have to admit I haven't watched the old ones, so I don't think I'm going to discuss some of the past topics, but we might. So anyway, I know this one we won't. Let's start in Exodus 6.
Okay.
And I want to look at verses 14 through verse 25. Now, I'm not going to read it all because it's a lot of names, and I won't say them correctly anyhow. But I will read this part, and it's
true, she will.
It's true, right? And it is starting at 6:14. It says, "These are the heads of their fathers' houses." Okay, so these are the heads of the fathers, and then it starts with Reuben, who's the firstborn. Second is Simeon. Mm-hmm. Third is Levi. You're like, oh, we're on a roll, and then it stops. It stops with Levi. And so I was like, wondering, do they ever pick up with the rest of them? And they don't. I mean, obviously later on when they're coming out, it's counted. But in this context, it's not used again. And it goes with Reuben, a little bit of his, and then Simeon, a little bit of his. But then when we get to Levi, it really fleshes it out because it's really the introduction of just who Moses and Aaron are. But I digress. I thought I would go to Genesis 29, and I would look at the names of these three and what they mean and put them in order. And when we do, I would suggest that the reason why there's only three listed is because that's the message. And so Reuben, when he's born, what Leah says is she says, "For the Lord looked upon my affliction." Oh, well, we've seen scriptures in this Exodus, I think chapter 2 and chapter 3, and I think chapter 4 and 5. Anyway, let's just say all through Exodus. The beginning, where the Lord sees their affliction. They hear them crying out, right? Then we have the second name, which is Simeon. It says, "The Lord heard that I was unloved."
What?
I'm saying Pharaoh on this one is not loving him, any Israelites, okay?
Yeah.
We may have had some in Genesis that were being loved by Pharaoh, like Joseph, but this Pharaoh isn't even the one that didn't know Joseph. It's now a new one, and he has no love affair at all for Israelites, okay? And then we have Levi, and his name, when he was born, Leah said, "Now this is the time that my husband will join me." Well, isn't this whole thing to bring Israel out into the wilderness?
To be the wife?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
To
That's
marry.
So cool.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Aaron and Moses are being used as the bridge.
Right.
To bring the earthly and the heaven troubled waters. Yeah, it is, because they had to split the thread. Yeah. So this is basically the link between the heavenly and the earthly, and they're going to be acting that way. You have Moses, who's, I guess we'd say, really was the heavenly link, and then Aaron, who's the earthly link. But together, they make a very smooth transition.
Another thing I was thinking, now that is,
I know,
so cool. So cool. But another thing I was thinking before you said that with the three, why it stops there is, you know how we always say the 12 tribes is kind of like a timeline?
Yes.
So stopping at Levi may be telling you where you're at on that timeline.
Oh my gosh, that is good.
Of all of all three, of all 12
Yeah,
tribes.
because you've got to join with the husband for the, that is
you know
really
what I mean? It's
good.
like, this is where we're at.
Right.
In the story.
I like that a lot. Because
Benjamin
that makes
would be
sense.
the
last one.
Right. The last one that you see in the land right now.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Oh, that's really good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Something else, kind of still in these verses, and I want to go down to in verse 23, where we start to see the father or the parenting of these people. Okay. So we see that Aaron's mom and dad are the same as Moses's. Okay. So, because they're brothers. Okay. So, but Aaron and Moses' mother and father are both from the Levitical line. We know this when you go up to verse 20, and it says, and Amram took for himself Jochebed, his father's sister, as wife, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so they marry. So it's two Levites that come together, and they have Aaron, which is great because Aaron's the high priest, right, of the Levitical tribe. So it makes sense that you need to have both of these.
Right.
But then Eleazar, who is Aaron's son, okay, Aaron marries a young lady from the tribe of Judah. So now we have the priestly line and the kingly line coming together to produce Eleazar. Eleazar will be the first to become the high priest after Aaron dies. All right. Then after that, we're not really sure who's going to be high priest because there's been no one else that's gone through the sanctification process besides Aaron and his 4 sons. 2 die, so 2 are left, right? Mm-hmm. But what is so neat is next we see, and of course this story has not happened yet, but the Lord makes sure that we know Phinehas's birth line, I guess you'd say.
Right.
Eleazar marries a lady who, well, we don't really know where she comes from. And that's in verse 25. It says, and Eleazar, and I may be saying that completely wrong, but that's just how I say it. Okay. Aaron's son took for himself a daughter of Pethuel as wife, and she bore Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their clans. Okay. Phinehas, is who we see in Numbers 25, who is the one who redeems Israel basically from himself, from their own destruction.
Stops the plague.
So I just can't help but see Messiah in this. I can't help but see the idea of Messiah, Yeshua being here. He's the one that saves us from ourselves, saves us from sin. He's the one that goes through and through judgment will pierce through the wickedness, redeem us, and then involved in that union is this unnamed bride. I don't know, but it's a cool thing. You can chew on it for a while. All right. Another thing I saw was I'm going to try to get out of 6 today, but it's probably not going to happen. But if we look at 6, 26, and 27, there's a small chiasm. That's where you have, where it says the same thing at the beginning and the end. It's like bookends. It just moves in and there's one central point.
It's like in poetry they call like a haikus or something. Is it right?
There is something in poetry that works like that, but I do not know
I can't poetry. I know. I don't know. But
because then there also somewhere it's the number of words, and then they have to. Okay, whatever. I am just not even in the territory. Yeah. Let's just keep on top of this. What we do know
that
is
area.
The chiasm. We have where in 26, where again this is Moses and Aaron, and then they're going to bring the children out of the land according to their divisions. And then here's the middle of it. They were the ones who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And then it goes back to bring them out. And then this is Moses and Aaron. So the center of this is the one who's going to speak to the evil mouth. The one who's going to speak to the one who represents the world.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. I just think it's kind of cool that we have the two of them named. And again, chapter 6 seems to me to be a lot of, okay, I am the Lord your God. This is my authority. And here's yours, Moses. Here's your authority. And that's why we're going to work together. Because in 7:1, it goes into, see, I have made you an Elohim, little e, to Pharaoh, and Aaron Aaron your brother as your prophet. So 6 is giving all the credentials as to why this is going to work. Because Moses has been like, I have uncircumcised lips. Who's going to listen to me? And I'm going to throw this out for maybe a carrot to chew on. You know, we always will say, well, Moses, he didn't have any faith. He was so concerned, really doubted that the Lord could use him. I'm not throwing that out because there's so many different layers that we can learn and apply to our lives. And that's definitely one we can apply. But here's another one. We know through multiple scriptures that we actually have Moses is the most faithful. What is it? I think it's Hebrews 3:5. Moses is the most faithful of the servants, right? I think it's Matthew, I'll have it down here. I think it's Matthew 11. That talks about the greatest of these, the greatest in the kingdom, right, is the servant, the one that's going to serve. Moses was a servant. We have several in Exodus where the Lord talks about, I think it's Exodus 12, or no, it's Numbers 12, that talks about how Moses, the Lord speaks to him one-on-one. He is a great and humble man. So I throw this out there. Could it be that I have uncircumcised lips and I can't speak? Instead of being more like, you can't really use me, more as to how am I even worthy?
Right.
How am I worthy to even be in front of you?
Right.
Much less, how can I be worthy for you to let me be your mouthpiece? Almost more of a, I can't help but see Wayne's World. We're not worthy. But that's all I'm seeing, where maybe that was more of the issue is, right, of realizing how human he is.
Right.
While in the presence of the living God. Again, another attribute that we would want to have. And that is an attribute that Messiah had. Yeah.
So if Moses could be privy to the story of the stars, understanding the redeeming aspect, right? And they've made the Redeemer into, it's God, it's Elohim, he's the Redeemer.
Right.
So for God to say, okay, now go redeem them. Wait, no,
right. I'm
that's
not
not me. Yeah, that's definitely.
That's a great point.
That's definitely
and
not
while
me.
he is acting that way, he's right. He's not the main one. But even to be that you're the foreshadow of what's to come, and then the walking Messiah is supposed to look like Moses, a prophet like him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Big shoes.
Huge. Oh, that's scary. Okay, last thing, and that has to do with, I want to bring up, I've heard this multiple times, but not until this year did it hit me square between the eyes and made me stop and just suddenly go back. All right. So the name Moses, right, means to draw out.
Right.
And Pharaoh's daughter calls him this. Mm-hmm. But my understanding is the name Moses in Hebrew means to draw out of water.
Okay.
But not in Egyptian. Did you say Egyptian? I don't know. We're going to say Egyptian. I don't know if you call it the Egyptian language. Sure, that's what we're going to call it. Okay. Thank you. I solved my argument in my head. All right. So the Egyptian language, it is speculated that Moses' name in the Egyptian language is more like Ramesses, like Moses, but it's more of an E, which means son of.
Okay.
So Ramesses means the son of Ra. Okay, so hold this, understanding that son, it could mean son of. So she could have possibly named him what has two names, meaning one in Hebrew means drawn out of the water, but in her language it would be equivalent to the son of. Now, we talked about this before. We talked about the basket, how they would do baskets and put things in a little compartment that would be for gods.
Oh, yeah.
All right, here's just a thought process. This is absolute midrash, okay? But it's midrash with a meaning, as they all are. Anyway, just follow me on this thought process. Wouldn't it be interesting? We'll start that way.
Okay.
If, when she goes to get this basket, it's to a god, don't know who, pull out a Hebrew boy who is, whatever's in that basket is dedicated to the gods. Right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, must be to a Hebrew god. Well, they believed in all the gods, right? They didn't want to offend any. And as a daughter of Pharaoh, wouldn't she be very aware of how the gods work? She's in the Pharaoh house. She would not want to offend any gods that might come back on her dad. So she says, well, all right, who better to raise her? Go get a Hebrew to raise her. To raise him, right?
Yeah.
Then she gets him back. So running around, he's named Moses, drawn from the water, and also son of. Son of what? Son of the God that he's dedicated to.
The Hebrew God.
The Hebrew God, yeah. So son of Yoveh. So, wouldn't it be interesting if once we get to chapter 7, verse 1, where he comes in, and remember, the Lord had already told him back, and I think it was chapter 4, that you're going to be like a God to him. Mm-hmm. Because the Lord set it up at birth when he said, hey, make sure you put him in the basket. He was already dedicated to who? to Yoveh. Remember, Moses goes in chapter 2 to go and visit his brothers to help redeem them. He already knows in his head that he's meant to be there to help his brothers.
He's the son of the Hebrew God. And if he was privy to the
stars,
the story, then he would think, well, I guess I'm that son.
Yeah, because he's been set in the perfect position that now this Pharaoh, we didn't know Joseph. He wasn't the Pharaoh in the beginning of Exodus. Okay.
Right.
So we're now 3 to 4 Pharaohs later. We don't know how many, okay?
Right.
But we're still Pharaohs in. So every time Moses comes in, his name is either, hello, son of, I'm the son of. Who? And he's proclaiming, this is not my God. My God's coming to take his people away, which I'm a part of, and so are they. Mm-hmm. So now I just see even more of an understanding of why Pharaoh's like, yeah, you're an equivalent to me. Because Pharaoh saw himself as the son of Ra.
Right.
So why couldn't he be dealing with the son of the Hebrew
of
God? Whom he says, I don't know. I don't know that God. I don't know your daddy.
Yeah.
And then the rest of this
I don't know my
is
daddy.
like, okay, fine. Well, we're going to show you who my daddy, and you should be your daddy is. Yeah. So then we have the plagues happening. And on that note, we'll end. I know we didn't really get to talk about a lot of the plagues, but I think if it is true, even if it isn't, still understanding the way it worked, sons of God works, it kind of might help us realize that, again, the Lord orchestrates this stuff all the way from the beginning.
That, Midrash.
And sometimes we don't even realize how much he's orchestrated it, but we've got to have faith that he does.
That's right. Very good.
All right. Well, then, thanks for joining us. We hope you have a great week, but we'll see you on the flip side with Julie and Axe. Shalom.